Right, 1 October 2023, and today I've got a breaking news story that I need to handle. I did not have time to deal with this issue, which is very, very important for the aviation and tourism industry in Zimbabwe. And this is the death of two high-profile individuals this week. That is the Rio Zimbabwe owner, Hapawa Randawa, a billionaire from India, and the new CEO of Rio Zimbabwe, or Muroa Diamonds, that is George Sibanda. George Sibanda recently moved from South Africa to Zimbabwe when he got a job at Rio Zimbabwe, and he is a business person, a very, very respected business person here in South Africa. So he got a job to become the CEO of Rio Zimbabwe. And the billionaire Randawa Hapa, his son, and George Sibanda, and then another Zimbabwean who is not mentioned, I guess that is the pilot, and three other people died in a crash about 6 kilometers from Shishawane on Friday. And this is a very, very sad development, because this marks close to 10 plane crashes in Zimbabwe. Small planes are crashing every year. There is a lot of small planes crashing in Zimbabwe, and I want to take you through what could be the causes of these plane crashes and what needs to be done right now. But first, I want us to go through the actual incident and the scene of the accident. So as I said, the billionaire from India, Hapawa Randawa, he died there, and George Sibanda, the new CEO of RioZim. So this is a very high-profile case that has happened in our country, coming shortly after another crash of the RioZim plane, which crashed on 14 February. So let's look at this one, and I'll go a bit into detail on other things.
Ndege yarazoti ine mutiniro siwo utoziziva zichitinira zichita pasangoba duku tawa ndege ichitaza kuti ine yabondera kuti pakuita ruzha vanodanzira kuti ndege pakuti ndege pa ina dosera zvinochinga maisho kunoku tisvika kunoku tichazokudosonera simira kupinda kuti tikwane kusvika kunoku tikona chimiro chindege chodza ndege yaparara
isaundi yokuwa kuti kune ndege ndaiwa nokuti tikati kuita uradze kuchera uko ndiani.
Zimbabwe Republic Police, a plane crash which occurred today, that is the 29th of September 2023, between 07:30 hours in the morning and 08:00 hours, where 6 people are confirmed dead. The Muroa Diamond Company, Rio Zimbabwe, owned the white and red Zimchem craft. It left Harare for the mine at 06:00 hours. It then crashed about 6 kilometers from Shishawane. The victims are 2 Zimbabweans and the 4 foreign nationals.
Right, so this is self-explanatory. The people traveled from Harare, and they were just about to get to Shishawane, 6 kilometers. Then the aeroplane started to rotate in one spot, and it crashed. If you look at pictures of the scene, if you go to gambaka.com, you see the pictures that were published there. You will see that there was no debris field. So it did not crash horizontally. It crashed down in one spot. So almost everything is crashed together in one spot. That shows that whatever happened, the aeroplane lost power and directly went down and fell on a spot. And when it fell, they did not have time to do the normal thing that you see in TV where they say, Mayday, Mayday. It was a sudden stop. Something happened suddenly, and the airplane went into a tailspin and dropped. And normally, to me, that shows a sign of a seizure of the engine. The engine stopped immediately. And to me, I was thinking of a number of reasons why that happened. And let me take you through my possible lines of thinking. The first one is very, very simple: running out of fuel. This airplane uses fuel And I don't know where the refuel, if the refuel in Harare or if the refuel at Murwa Diamonds. So it's possible that they calculated that they could fly from Harare and then refuel at the diamond mine. And then it so happened that they could not refuel, or the fuel was not enough to get where they were going. That's a very, very big possibility. Then secondly, this plane is a Cessna 206. According to the research that I've done, this plane was first manufactured in 1964. And the last manufacture of that airplane was in the 80s. If not that particular version, it was around in the 80s, in the late 80s. It's possible that this plane was just old and out of maintenance, and therefore it resulted in the crash of this airplane. And it takes me back to the crash of 14 February, Murwa Diamonds or Rio Zimbabwe. Also on this plane, it was a very old plane which crashed, and it crash landed. This one, the pilot crashed in Beatrice, and Beatrice is almost 40 kilometers from Harare. It was upside down. So let me show you a picture of the airplane. If you go to gambago.com, we've covered all these airplane crashes from RioZim, from so if you look at this plane crash from 14 February, so look at the picture that I'm going to present now, you can see that this is their crash that happened, and the guy had to land upside down. It was also a twin engine airplane, and this was a Piper 31 Navajo, which was first manufactured in 1967, and the last one was last manufactured, I think that was also around 1987, somewhere there. They stopped manufacturing this plane, and RioZim is still using these planes, which are very, very old. They were not able, so this one had 5 people on board during the crash. They did not release the number of people injured here, obviously because the CEO was not in here. But if you look at this particular incident, there's no choice but to release the name of the people. This is the top leadership of the company, the owner of the company, a billionaire who owns a huge amount of this company. And George Swander, very unfortunate, this guy is on probation. He is not even 3 months in this company, and already he died for this on business, on duty. And I want to take you through the other plane crashes. So if you go to gambago.com and say plane crash, you will see that there is a number of stories that we've carried. There is one on February 8th. There was a crash which killed 2 Air Force of Zimbabwe officials after a plane hit a power line. Then on August 31, 2022, a technician from Zimbabwe died here in South Africa during a plane. They were demonstrating this. They used these small planes for demonstrating. Then on June 1, 2022, Mark Sampson, he died during a crash. There was a demo, you know those things where they come together and they do aerobics, acrobatics. He died there. You can go to gambago.com and see the actual video. And then there was a Mazoe plane crash where there was no license. The pilot there did not have a license, and he landed in a house. So this is the one here. If you go to Zimbabwe, it was a Chikumira farm, and the Zimbabwe police said this happened, and it crashed and killed people on the ground. There were then, let's look at another one here. Another military crash, which I covered in November 2020. There was another Murwa Diamonds that I showed you, February 14. And then there was Mnangagwa's pilot who crashed and died in a helicopter crash that also killed people on the ground. And you can see that there were other crashes before. There was one that took place in Mutare, on the mountain there in Mutare, and killed people. And so there's a lot of crashes that have taken place, and I'm going to stop sharing here. What you need to understand is that there is a problem in Zimbabwe, and the problem is these small planes are crashing. The body that is responsible, the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe, is responsible for conducting investigations when an aeroplane crashes. And do not take this lightly when you fly in Zimbabwe. If you fly in a big plane or if you fly in a small plane, you must take this very, very seriously, because one day it will be you in that plane, which is not properly inspected. There are planes that are flying right now to Kariba. There are planes that are flying to Vic Falls. There are planes that are carrying people around, performing various duties, ambulance services. The Russians that provided helicopters to ZANU-PF to perform their campaigns. These airplanes are all over Zimbabwe, and they all have one thing in common, which is that they're not properly inspected. That is my view. So let's look again at what happened here for a second.
ndege yaratidza kuti ine mutinhiro usiwo utoziziva dzichitinhira dzichiita pasangova duku tawa ndege ichiratidza kuti ine yabondera kuti pakuita ruzha vanhu vadanidzira kuti ndege pakuti ndege inadosira zvino chechinga mainshoyo kunoku tichisvika kunoku tichazokudosendera kupinda kuti tikwane kusvika kunoku tikaona chimiro chindege chodza ndege yaparara
isaundi yokuwa kuti kune ndege ndaiwa nokuti tikati kuita hura dzekuchera uko ndiyani.
So it's clear that these aeroplanes are old. They're very difficult to service. The parts are difficult to find. And it's possible that one day there will be a disaster that involves a bigger aeroplane, maybe Air Zimbabwe, maybe one of the bigger planes that travel around. So my suggestion would be, firstly, if we look at the military, the military aircraft in Zimbabwe is extremely old. They need to do a process of scrapping all the old military aircraft, and they say after a certain point in time, there should be no aeroplane before that date that should be allowed to go up, and they should scrap that. Scrap it, take it, and put it in the scrap heap and burn it, so that no one ever feels the need to go into those aeroplanes. Similarly, for the aviation industry, the companies, the guys in the Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe should ground every single plane in Zimbabwe. When there's an accident like this, all these small Cessnas, Navajos, everyone who's got a plane in Zimbabwe, they must be told to ground their plane until an inspection has been done, until it passes. You cannot have a situation that we have now, and then until operational procedures are put in place, because you cannot have people dying, billionaires, CEOs in these planes, which are not properly inspected. And this is also bad for the aviation record of the country. You cannot have a situation like that where the aviation history of the country is affected like this. And as I said, George Sibanda, a very, very big loss to Zimbabwe, and also big loss to his family. Someone who has just came back to contribute to the country. And Hapao Rwandawa here, an investor, a big investor in Zimbabwe, dying in our country. I think he's the second billionaire to die after the guys who died at Mutare. And also these Moroa guys. It's a big loss that is taking place in our country, and the authorities obviously need to act and conduct a proper investigation and ground all these small aircraft. They're killing people in the air and they're killing people on the ground. And I know for a fact that the Zimbabwe military, they probably haven't compensated anybody. Those kids who died when they crashed into the huts, they probably haven't compensated those people. They probably just left the thing like that. This thing needs to be sorted out. If someone is involved in a disaster like this, there should be consequences. To the operator, there should be consequences, and there should also be compensation to the relatives who are here, who are left by these families, or who are injured here, especially with the military crafts. This needs to be sorted out. So that was a quick look at the airplane crash, Rio Zim, old Moroa, which was bought. A big chunk of that company was bought by Hapao Rwandawa, and he was visiting Zimbabwe to look at his company, to see how things were going there. and unfortunately he ended up dying 6 kilometers from Zhishavane. And as you saw, the eyewitnesses saying the aeroplane rotating in one spot and then dropping to the ground. And I think what I believe is that they probably ran out of petrol, or the engine had a sudden seizure. Something sudden, suddenly stopped because the aeroplane dropped from the ground vertically. It did not, they could not move it any further. And it was just going round in one spot. And something drastic and sudden happened to bring this aeroplane down. But what is most worrying is that so many of these aeroplanes in Zimbabwe, over 10 of them, in the past 3 to 4 years, have crashed in our country, killing people. It's now becoming a disease and a pandemic in our country. Right, that is it for the special coverage of the plane crash. And I'll be back later with Mr. Tinashe Jonasi as we look at Idi Mnangagwa and how he's doing ever since he got into office. Is he really, does he have a plan to go forward? And that will be a very, very interesting discussion. Thank you very much and good night.
Ay, 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 ay.